guitar buddies, about time I jumped on the Oasis bandwagon. That was, of course, Don't Look Back in Anger. So we'll start with the chords. I'm playing a C to F on the intro. Of course, that's the piano intro, but to emulate it on guitar, I'm playing very kind of John Lennon, Imagine style. I'm playing just an open C chord, okay, and I'm playing the middle three kind of strings, D, G and B strings, and then hitting the root on 3 on the A string. So you can kind of get that kind of sound. And then you just switch it to an F chord and kind of play the same thing. Yeah, so that's a couple of times on that on the intro, and then the actual guitar is played. So I'm playing a C, 3 on the A string, then 2 on the D string, E, hammering to F on 3, open G, then coming back down those 2 notes, F and E, 3 to 2. So you've got, yeah. I just let them ring, so don't sort of stop them. And then you get into the song with this little bit. So I'm playing the C on top on 2 on the B string. I just hammer in to G to A on the G string, open to 2, and then open and keep that C on top on 1, and then 2 Ds, the hammer to E on 2, open G, E and pull off to D, and then you're into the song. Okay, so the chord sequence is C, so we've got C, G, A minor, E, F, G, C, A minor, G. Okay, so just to go through that again. Starts on the C, so 1, 2, G for 2, 3, 4, A minor, 1, 2, to E, 3, 4, F. Shift that up 2 frets to a G bar chord. You could play it up a G, but kind of that feels like kind of Oasis where they play it. There's a C, and then I'm playing basically A minor to G with a little kind of arpeggio. Now on the track, if you listen, there's kind of quite a few guitars, quite a lot of layers and textures. So this might be one guitar playing the chords, another guitar playing a little fill. But I've done it as a kind of 2 guitar version, so, you know, because that's probably the most you'll get playing it live. Okay, so I'm just putting that little arpeggio in there, which I'm just playing open A, 2, 2, 1. So just arpeggiating the A minor chord, starting on the A string, and then playing a G on 3, open D, open G. So, and then you're back into it. And then you've got this kind of middle section. So it's an F major chord to F minor. Now you could just play that in the first position. But I think what you got more on the track is so I'm playing F as a bar chord on 1, then moving it up to this shape for the F minor. So it's 8, 10, 10, 9, 8, starting on the A string. So, start a revolution from my head. To a C, playing that as, you know, I could play it here, or I was playing it as a bar chord. To make that section a little different to the previous section. So F, and again, into my head. Step aside, summertime's in. So that's 3 times round on that. F, F minor, C. Then we've got a G. I'm playing as a bar chord, and an A flat diminished. So that's 4, 5, 6, 4, 6, 4. Yeah, so A minor, G, little Ziggy Stardust bit there. So I'm playing F, and then but just taking my finger off to get an open E. So you've got, and then moving that up, so it's 1 open, 1 open, 1 open, 1 open, 1 2. Sorry, so it's 1 open, 1 open, 1 open, 1 2. Use that as a single note, and then 2 bars of G, and that's taking you into the chorus, which is the same chords as we played before. C, G, A minor, E, F, G, C, A minor, G. And again. And after that chorus, you basically skip out that A minor to G. You just go straight into a repeat, kind of little string section. Okay, so it just goes to I heard you say. So you just a little slight variation there. So just watch out for that. Okay, and the guitar solo is played over the F to F minor to C section, that little middle section that we've got, and then just at the end, you'll notice it's playing through, goes through a couple of choruses. On the last chorus, it kind of stops when it gets to the A minor. Then it's F, look, back in it, so, and then the F minor. And then it's not to, and then at the very end it goes to the sequence again, but a slight change, not to. F, it's not to. So instead of going to the G, it goes to an F minor again, this, not today. So a couple of times at the end, you've got that little F minor thrown in there. Again, so just watch out for that. And great chords. Okay, so next we'll take a look at the little fill section, some of the little solo bits. So there's lots of licks throughout the song, some low in the mix, some more prominent. I put a few of them in, but the main thing is to learn the kind of scale used, because you don't have to learn them all exactly. And what we're using here is basically the C major pentatonic. Okay, so if you're familiar with the kind of A blues scale, which that's a kind of, that's the A minor pentatonic if you take out the blue notes. So that's just a familiar pattern to most people. That would be 5 8 5 7 5 7 5 7 5 8 5 8, and a lot of it's based around there. But we can also take these notes. So we've also got 3 5 3 5. So if you want to make it kind of the C major pentatonic, just start on a different note. It's all the same notes. Starting and ending on C there. So one thing to remember is that A minor is what's called the relative minor of C. Basically a natural minor, and A minor has all the same notes as C, just starts on a different note. Okay, so we've got, so a lot of these little licks are end on that C there to take you to the root. So a good way to learn it is learn it as starting on the 5th, on the bottom note, G, A, C, D, slide to 7, E, G, A, C, D, slide to E on 9, move to 8, G, A, 10, C, 10, D, 10. So we've got, Okay, so that's a good way to kind of approach the scale, and that'll give you a lot of the kind of licks that you get in the song. So it's all kind of, you do those little double stops on 5/5, that kind of stuff. And this note's often slightly bent, giving you a kind of a blue note. So that D is bent a half tone. So it's all about always, you learn that scale, you're kind of good. That's another half tone bend as well. Yeah. That kind of stuff. So for the little fills throughout the song, just kind of learn that pattern. And then throw them in where you like. Alright. And but the solo itself, so we'll take a look at that in more detail, is, so here I'm starting with that little semitone bend. Okay, so I'm starting on that D on 7 on the G string. So basically playing the first note and releasing it. Okay, so then 5, then 5, C, G. And then you've got a little, couple of those quite fast. G, A, C, so a little hammer, 5, 7 on D, 5 on G. And then bending that D again on 7 and hitting kind of country-ish, hitting a C on 8 on the E string, and then releasing that down and then down to an A on 7. Then C, D, C. And then start again. Same again. And then just that double stop there with that hammer to 7 on the D string. Then D, E, G, E, D, C. So again, it's all that pattern that I showed you. 5, 7, 5, 7, 5, 3 on the A and D string. Okay, and then you're coming up. Okay, so here we're going. Just coming up that scale. 3, 5, 3, 5, 7, 5, 7, 5. So then that little bend again. So 7, 5, 7 on D, back to 5 on G. Slide to 9 from 7. Then G on 8. So what I'm doing, a little kind of, as I'm sliding, kind of tucking my first finger in a little bit, just kind of tiny little position change. So instead of being, if I just didn't move it, it'd land on 7. But if I push it in a bit, it's ready there on 8. And then I can go G, 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 A, C, C. So it's all 8, 8, 8, 10, 8, 8, 10, 8 on the B and E strings. And then we've got this kind of country-ish, just a hammer on G to A, and then picking C. So it's 8, 10, 8, 8, 10, 8, just repeating that. And then just a C and D and a G. So So 8, 10 and 8, but on the other way, on different strings. E string down to the B string. Yeah. And then we've got so I'm playing 1, 2, 3, 4, just a double stop bend, basically bending the D up to an E, and also playing the E. So 4, and then same again, but then just picking it 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. So it's, and then the bend again on 15, release 13, 15, 13, and then this little bend again, same note all the time, hitting an A on 17, release, down, and then C, D, C, D, and then again that kind of bend to finish off, that kind of Chuck Berry kind of rock and roll bend. Okay, just bending that D and hitting the E. Okay, it's a nice little solo, and then on the outro you've got kind of so that's all again the scale we use. 5, 7, 5, 7, 5, 7, bend, 7, 5, 7, 5, 7, bend again. So it's all just at the very end there, then we've done that before. Sort of slows down at the end, ends on that C. Kind of that. Again, you don't have to be too precise with these. You put your own version of it in there. Basically, once you've learnt that scale, it's going to fit. Okay, so you can have some fun with it. You don't have to copy things exactly. It's more fun to learn them, and then do it a little bit your own way. Okay, that's what kind of learning's about. You know, you learn something and then make it your own. All right, anyway, we'll take a look next at the bass. The bass part is pretty simple. It's basically following the chords with a few little passing notes. So I'm starting with so on the C, not playing up the intro, coming in on the verse. So C, little passing note B. You play that a lot to get to the G and back to the C. So 3, 2, 3. Then a little passing G sharp to get to the A. 3, 4, 5, 3. Again, passing note. Open. So F to G. So 1. Little chromatic. 1, 2, 3. That 2 again on A, that'll B to take it back to the C. C, A, G. That's your basic pattern for that main chord sequence. So I'll just go from an F to a C there, showing a few little fills. You could just stay on the same notes, but just using the open A string as a little filler. So F, start revolution from then 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 4 and so playing F A, little 4 and 1 and to the C. So 1 open C. And just use that open string. G, on 3 on the E string, A flat on 4, A, G, then F and E to F sharp. So it's 1 open, 1 open, 1 open, 1 2, and then it's 2 bars of G and just doing the chromatic again, G and F sharp. Ba, 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 ba. But into the chorus, which is the same basically as the main verse chords, the C to G to A minor. Yeah, so that's pretty much it. Yeah, and the little section where it goes to like a string section, and then instead of playing that G to A, you just sort of say, you could just play the A there, but it just kind of, instead of playing the A, it just stays on the C. The guitar doesn't, just the bass. But that's a tiny little thing. You'll notice on the playthrough. So on one time, it just doesn't do that when it goes to that little kind of string bit after the first chorus. And then you've got, at the end, you've got a little, it kind of stops on an A, goes to an F, played an F up there, and then finishes on. Play it there if you want. It's not to. Just slows down at the end. Again, F. Optional to put an octave F in there. It's quite nice. It's not to. Finish on the C. Okay, so that's simple bass part there. And a great tune. So thanks for watching, buddies. Cheers.